Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Tackle Shop Live. What up, Lane Graves? Conway, how you doing, buddy? Robert Murray, good to see you, buddy. Yeah, Larry Shope's in the house. Ron's back. How you doing? John Kopp, Tim H, Ray Cruz, how are you, buddy? Mike Hayer's in the house. What's up, Mike? Good seeing you at the show there, buddy. Higher, I should say, right? Is that right? Higher? I'm learning, slowly but surely. Yeah, buddy. Michael Bradley's here. Groggy Fishing. Brock Pickett. What's up, Brock? David Schottelmeyer. What's happening, buddy? Lane Graves is in the house. Yeah. E-Stack Fishing. How are you, buddy? Ed Valnowski. What's up? Hey, we got a full house. Jimmy Arnold. What's up, man? Thanks for all your help this weekend, Jimmy. Man, oh, man. Boy, oh, boy, we're just coming off of Bass Fest 2025. It was so great to see everybody from the show and saying hi and putting a name to a face. Man, we had a fantastic crew, Nick. Unbelievable.
They always show out.
I'm telling you, man. We had record-breaking crowds here on Friday and Saturday. Man, it's just special to see all you guys making the trip from as far away as 7 hours, 8 hours. I mean, guys came in 8 hours to see us. So we really, really appreciate that. We had a blast at the show. The show was a complete success. And I want to thank you guys for coming, stopping in, and checking out the seminars. We had some phenomenal speakers, man. What a great.
That's what I was going to say, Mike. Every year we think, oh, well, you know, we hit the pinnacle.
Yeah.
And every year you guys outdo it.
I'm telling you, I think we really put together a great selection of pros and seminars, and man, what a great time. What a great time. Anyway, my name is Mike Acord. This is George Acord. Behind the cameras, cameraman Nick, and we are Tackle Shop Live, and we come at you every Thursday night at 7 o'clock. So a lot of you guys are regulars, but bump into a bunch of different people throughout the week that don't even know we have a show. So said they're going to check in and check it out. So good to see you guys. Hope everybody's doing well. We got a great show for you tonight. We got a lot to talk about, but yeah, the recap on Bass Fest was cold, but we had the heated tent, George. You didn't get out there.
Well, after hours.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, you went out there during the seminars. It was toasty. Those guys were taking jackets off, turning the heat down. I had a couple guys controlling the heat, keeping the temperature right in there, because it'd smoke you right out of there, Nick. It's amazing, those heaters.
It does, but you know it's not fair, George. So while you're in here, you know George is stocking he's getting everything where it needs to be. Mike's out there, he's getting the inside scoop.
Well, you guys. So here's how 2025 is going to come out of the gate. Mike Trader has broken up the dream team 2 years in a row now. We fished team tournaments together for 40 straight years, and he decided last year in the spring to fish with Nick.
Yeah, I did.
And I get it. I get it.
I did. I
get it.
I broke
all
stride.
good. It's all good. So this year again. So I would, we're going to have about, the rest of this show season here at the shop, we're going to do like another 10 or 12 seminars. And if I was you, I'd sit in on all of them and make notes, because the first part of the season,
yeah,
it's on.
Yeah, I know.
It's on.
I know.
It is freaking on.
I know.
He's serious this year.
It's on. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to mix it up, though. I mean, George and I fished the 2 trails together, and then Nick and I are going to try to fish as many as we can in the spring air and the spring trail, and we're going to do what we can do, and it's good to mix it up. Mix it up a little. That's all.
I have.
All I'm
Hey,
saying. It's nothing personal.
I'm
nothing-
not taking it personal. I'm
nothing
just going to
personal.
let you know.
I think you're taking it pretty
I'm
personal.
taking your lunch money from you.
Well,
Okay.
That's fine. That's fine.
Mike, we heard this all last year.
Yeah, I did.
Last year, you know, I didn't do well. I mean,
Well, I don't
I-
think you even practiced.
no, I did. I gave a day of practice for each tournament.
Oh.
I gave it my all, but you know, decision-making factors in you know,
You know what's funny about that though, George? Like, I get it. The results didn't turn out the way you wanted them to, but you guys, you in particular, really did better than you think because we could not get the bites on certain things that you could
Yeah.
at all.
well,
Yeah. You did get the bites. You
what
just
I
did.
told you I caught them on and what I really caught them
Oh,
on.
here we go.
Here we go.
One thing I'm good at is setting the set deception a year in advance. No, that's not true.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, I caught him on a Carolina rig jitterbug with a Snicker bar trailer. That's just how it went down. All the time, you know.
Well, see, and then this weekend because the seminars were so good and Mike was sitting in on them, he's got something against me now.
Oh yeah. I got some juice for you, Nick.
I'm
And
glad.
yeah, I got a little bit of juice. So I didn't get to sit in a lot on the seminars, but the couple minutes at the beginning and a couple minutes at the end to make sure that the sound was going good and then the time, keeping the time, that was the big thing. Was we had so many speakers here that it was really important to keep the time. And those guys would talk for 2 hours if you let them. They wouldn't shut up. It was hard for me to bust in on them. It really was. And I felt bad doing it, but I had to keep the time going because we it was only so many hours in the show. And I had we had 6 seminar speakers a day, every day. It was incredible.
And you're not kidding either because Greg comes in and he goes, Nick, I need like 3 hours.
He does, man. I know he did. And he was kind of like, I said, 45 minutes, Nick, or their GDP. And he's like, what? He said, I don't even get warmed up at an hour.
Well, if you stop and think about it, guys, that seminar lineup,
incredible.
You can right now, you can start looking at every boat show in the country with 1 or 2 exceptions. There was a show in Minneapolis last week that had some hammers at it. KVD,
Mercer and Zona.
Mercer and Zona.
Yeah.
You
That was pretty good.
You take a couple outliers out of there. There is no other show anywhere that's going to have the kind of lineup that was here.
Yeah. And then the fact that,
So, just to take those seminars in from those, and guess what? What you don't know is before their seminars, they came up to me and they said, what do you think we should talk about? Because they don't know the flavor of the area. And I mean, I just pick a topic, that was relevant to like the 3-state area here. And they'd be like, all right. And they would just tear it up.
yeah.
And they were cutting loose of the juice.
They
Well,
were.
I like what Chris Johnson said. He goes, I'm going to let it all out because you guys ain't fishing against me.
Yeah. He did. He, I did listen to a little bit of his, and he said that, listen, I'm going to tell you stuff that I don't even tell my brother because, you guys are far enough away from me that, and I don't fish against you. Probably won't see any of you guys on tour anywhere. So I'm going to drop the juice. And he did. He was really, really unloading a bunch of stuff. And, the guy, when you really listen to him, Angler of the Year, he is a competitive, very, very, first of all, he played semi-professional hockey. And
Yeah.
And when he decided that
So
wasn't,
did his brother.
yeah. And when they found out that wasn't going to go any further, he took into this fishing and he put all that competitiveness into that. And these guys are ultra, ultra, ultra competitive. And that's what drives them. We were talking about, what it would be like to be a pro. And George and I were saying, well, George, because George did it for a year and it takes a certain deal to do that.
You better want it.
You better want it. You better be super hungry because of the commitment of travel time away from home, time away from your family, and then all of the work that goes into being a pro. People don't think about it, but just the logistics of traveling, getting a place to stay, and then knowing the area and knowing how to get around and ramps and where to go and practice, and then all the practice and all that kind of stuff. So it takes a lot, but those guys, you can tell, I mean, that it's what they really what they're doing is what they want to do. A lot of us say, oh, we'd love to do that, but honestly, it's a grind, man. It's an absolute grind. It takes a special person to do that. But listen to him talking, it was adamant. It was right away. It was right there in your face that these guys are ultra competitive people. So pretty cool stuff.
What's coming up next?
Well,
on the dance card,
that's the whole thing. This is the recap of 2025 Bass Fest. Already we're recapping it, but guess what? For you guys that couldn't make that show and couldn't do that, for whatever reason that you were busy. We have our next event coming up in February the 8th is Smallmouth Saturday, a one-day event. One of the most powerful events you're ever going to go to as far as smallmouth fishing. It's all about smallmouth. There's nothing else going on but smallmouth bass, everything. So today I locked down a guy by the name of Tom Mills, who we had on the show a couple times, a complete total river phenom. The man is unbelievable on the river, and he's an unbelievable fisherman overall. He's just a great outdoorsman. And he's going to do a seminar for us at that event. And he called me today to verify. And then he really wanted to go over. I mean, he was on it already. He was like, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to do it. Is this okay? And I'm like, Tom, I mean, that is the juice there, man. That would be a great seminar. So really, really, really happy to have Tom signed on to do a great seminar. And then also George, our own George, is going to do a seminar for us. George's seminars are so very informative. He's been doing them for a really long time. I'm not just saying it because he's standing next to me, but he really does a fantastic seminar and very, very well laid out and very informative on whatever the topic is going to be.
You're going to need a bigger tent.
So
I'm going in a different direction.
Yeah. So there's 2 seminars locked in right now. We're working on 2 more. We're not going to have as many because we want to give more time to the seminars. We want to have an hour and a half of time for you guys to get your questions answered, you guys to listen and hear the pertinent information for the seminar, and then question and answer. And I think a third one we're going to do is a panel. We're going to do a panel of guys, of the hardcore smallmouth guys that are going to be here. And we'll be able to sit up there, and then all you're going to do is bomb questions at them and get them answered by different people. And we're gonna do that in a pretty cool way. So that's going to be one of the third ones. And then I have another guy that I'm working on right now to come in and do one. So we're just waiting for a schedule. So we'll let you know. But that's February the 8th. February the 8th is the next big giant event. Make sure you put it on your calendars right now. It's going to be awesome. There's going to be a barbecue truck here for food all day. Because that's the thing. Once you get here, you want to stay because you don't want to miss any of these events. So we can get you fed. We can, keep you warm. And it's a really awesome learning time. So make sure you put that on your calendar. And then after that is the March Cabin Fever sale. And we're going to get into that a little later, but that again is going to be a special event. That's our that's our longest running event, and it's always a special event.
We will also have some killer deals on Smallmouth Saturday.
Oh, of course.
We're gonna run some specials. We're gonna have a big store wide sale for you that one day. I don't know. There's some kind of big show or something that's in the neighborhood that time frame. It's somewhere. It might be in Harrisburg or something. If you're thinking about going there, I think the parking there is $15. I think it's $15 to get in. If you want to see some fishing tackle, good luck.
Yeah.
So save the $30. come on over here. It's free parking with a shuttle bus
Yeah.
with in the Bass Bus, mind you.
Yeah.
It's free admission.
Yep.
And there is a epic legendary tackle selection for you. Not to mention, if you're a local or even regional smallmouth guy who loves the smallmouth fish, the name of the show is Smallmouth Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah.
So take that drive to Harrisburg off your dance card.
Yep.
Stew a Yui, slam the brakes on, Starsky and Hutch, whatever you got to do, Dukes of Hazzard, get out of that traffic and get on over here, and we're gonna make it happen for you. We're gonna have a hell of a day. And in the meantime, we're gonna roll out a couple more Tackle Shop Lives. We got stuff going on at the shop every day. It's 2025 fishing season's here.
Well, we were talking.
go.
We were talking to George about little pop up somethings between now and our February show too. So keep yourself informed by getting on our email list and also signing up, making sure you like our Facebook and everything, because we're going to do these little pop up things here on for the next couple of weeks, and you're going to see some cool stuff. So why not? It's freezing cold. We'll do a little pop up something or other, and let you guys know about it. And you can come in here and hang out and watch. We're always watching fishing on TV, some old reruns, 1989, 90, 91 classics. The other week, I was cool. So anyway,
so I wanted to ask you guys something. You talked a lot about seminars. So do you guys know, for each one of you, what was your first seminar and what was the topic?
Wow.
Oh man.
Jeez.
You remember?
No,
It's been some time ago.
it's been a minute.
Was it before you went pro or no?
Oh, it was back in the early 90s.
Really?
Yeah. Mike and I used to do a lot of sports shows, and yeah. So I couldn't even tell you.
I could probably say that mine was on the river, because George and I, we do sports shows, and they would get us to do a seminar, at the sports show. And it was always like, we want you to do something on the Susquehanna
Yeah,
River.
they always wanted that.
So, we always did, some kind of Susquehanna River thing. So I'm sure it was river fishing of some sort, but that was a lot of fun.
But I will share this with you. And it was interesting in talking with our 6 pros that were here. The deal is when your sponsor assigns you to one of these events, you don't know what you're getting into. And, you can have the top angler of the year here, which we did, and he can get assigned to an event that, for whatever reason, there can literally be like 8 people in a seminar. And that is the absolute worst thing ever. And I will tell you, I have driven. There was a sports show somewhere in the Wilkes-Barre vicinity, and at the time, my Skeeter dealer you get as a Skeeter sponsored angler, you get assigned a dealer, and at the time, my dealer was in Wilkes-Barre. Great family run shop, small dealership, fantastic people, and they're like, "We need you to come up and work. This is a big show for us. We're gonna have our biggest spread there, And the promoters really leaning on me to get some speakers in here. And I'm like, hey, okay, I'll drive up. And so, I can remember it like it was yesterday, and it was quite a long time ago. I drove up there, and, you could roll a frickin' bowling ball down the aisles in this joint. It was a beautiful show.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my first seminar of the day, there was like 6 people in the crowd, and it was this big building, this big room. And I'm like, oh my God. So I said, hold on, guys. I'm going to go out here and see if I can drum up some more customers. So I went out and, hey, you want to see a seminar? They're like, nah, man, I'm going to get a corn dog or whatever. So I came back in and I had my bag and my rods and I had my topic and I'm like, you know what, guys? I got off the little stage, took the mic off, sat in a chair. I said, huddle up. Let's talk fishing. And we didn't have a seminar. We had a fishing discussion, and I was allotted 45 minutes, and they came in an hour and got us out of there. And it was great. So it started off like, because it happens more than you know, and you might drive 3 hours to a place and do a seminar for 6 people because, you know, you just not every show hits, or it might be weather, could be a weather thing, or it could just be whatever. Maybe they don't like listening to me. I don't know. But yeah, that was, I can't tell you the first one, but I can tell you that one because I'll never forget that one. Because I drove home for 3 hours in a snowstorm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle Riggle says Oliver Nye seminar. Yo, dog, you missed it. He's been here a couple times.
Yeah. I was chit-chatting with him a little bit, and he wants to come back. So we're going to work something out with Oliver for sure.
Cabin fever, maybe.
That's what we're trying to. We'll I don't know. You know, we got to work something out, and he was like, hey, I got to get there again. So we're working on dates with him. So
fantastic.
Hopefully that whole thing will work out.
He's one of the best.
One of the best. All right, let's get this show going here, man.
Let's roll.
We're a tackle shop. We love talking tackle, and we call this Tackle Talk. Yeah.
What do you think, guys? 2025 is on.
2025 is on.
I mean, the trucks are rolling in here like daily. Every time you come in, you'll see a big pile of skids piled on the front of the building. Stuff is popping.
Well, I gotta tell you, George, you know, I haven't slept well for, you know, last month and a half, 2 months with all the tackle that's coming in here. You know, I'm just trying to figure out what in the hell possesses you to buy so much freaking tackle. This place is packed with tackle.
Yeah.
It is bursting at the seams. We got it in here by like George said, the truckload, the skid load.
It's awesome.
So, man,
it's awesome.
What do you got for us, George?
Well,
What's hot? What's happening?
I'm gonna do tackle talk a little different today. I'm going to talk about, last week we talked about a lot of reels. Well, this week I'm going to talk about a lot of reels. Wow. I have some very interesting reels. I have some innovative stuff here for you. I have a crazy fishing rod I'm going to show you. And then I walked around the shop a little bit while cameraman Nick was doing his live pre-show. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pick out a few things that I really like. And we're just going to roll with that. Some interesting stuff. So first, we're going to start off with some reels. We have some new snappy reels this week for you. One of the reels that's getting a lot of press because they have a massive pro staff, and it's a big change up for Lew's, is this new custom. It's the Custom Pro. And it is a Gen 3. So it's the 3rd generation of Custom Pro. And there's also a Custom. I'm going to show you both of them. This one here we reviewed a little while ago, so we're not going to go too much in depth on that. But the standard Custom, we're going to break down a little more deeper in depth for you. As a matter of fact, Mike, run over there and grab me the regular Custom. I forgot to grab that one. So Gen 3, this guy here, the gold one, we did break it down once before. Been getting a lot of questions about the braking system. And Lew's is rolling hard on this right now. All their pros are promoting this. A lot of people coming in are confused about the braking system. And that's what we're going to focus on. So nice little lever here on the side. Let's put that back together. You know, to access your side plate, we have a real handy little lever right there, pops down. And these plates, you know, they're kind of like a bayonet. I actually like to put my thumb on the spool and kind of push the spool out a little bit to loosen them. Their tolerances are pretty close, so they fit a little snug. But here's our spool, very light. There's our pinion gear. That's the super pinion gear. Matter of fact, I'll show you the pinion gear moving so you can identify it. That's the pinion gear. And for those of you who feel like you're uncovering a treasure because you've never seen this before, the pinion gear engages with that T-bar right there on the spool. Nick's done a nice job of zooming in on that. And that's going to be right there on the end of that pin. See that T-bar right there? So that's what locks into that pinion gear to drive the spool. And then the way a pinion gear works is when you want to cast, you push your thumb bar down and the pinion gear retracts and it disengages from that T-bar. So now it's back here. And Lew's on these reels we're talking about tonight, they use what's called the super pinion. So I'm going to talk briefly on each one of these 3 bait casting reels tonight. And what I'm doing is I'm showing you the pinion gear, which is the same on all 3 reels. It's a bigger diameter pinion gear, but when it pulls back, it's supported on a bearing on both ends. So it doesn't flop down and lay on the spool shaft, causing friction when you're trying to cast. So it pulls straight back. It's supported on 2 bearings up against shoulders. And then, of course, this is one of their top-end reels. You got a really nice quality stainless bearing on the spool. You have a really nice quality stainless bearing on the palming plate. Your spool shaft fits in the middle of that bearing. So you get a really good fast free spool. But the braking system's what everybody's asking about. Can you explain the braking system? Can you explain Yes, I can. This works on centrifugal force. And the braking system, as the spool speeds up, which is instant, there's a spring that tensions this induction cup. Okay. And then that enters this ring here, and you're not going to really be able to see it, but down inside here, you're going to see 5 magnets and 5 magnets. So as this spool accelerates and the centrifugal force allows this to pop out, it now is affected by those 10 magnets, which is all externally adjusted. So if I have this at like 3/4, I can back it down. You know what I'm saying? I can adjust that. Nick's waving his head up and down while he's running the camera, like, I know what you're saying. And that system is somewhat similar. You may be, some of you who are familiar with brands that run with Daiwa. That's a similar system. And that's okay, because that's what happens in this industry. The benefit is, okay, this reel is a casting son of a gun. So when Nick and I were at ICAST, we got there a day before Mike. We went down on the lake on the water day, and the Lew's guys were like, "You need to see this." And they had it all rigged up for us, and we went down and we started casting. And what I can tell you is a little different than the Daiwa SV system, which I have to say that. I'm sorry, but you know, this is a everybody's welcome shop, right? Mm-hmm. And you know, we don't accept any advertising dollars. We're friends of everyone, but we call them the way we see them, because it's our store, and you know, it's our airtime, and we're entitled to do that. If you know, hopefully you stay listening, but if you don't, or if you're one of those industry people and you're upset, you know, have a sip of beer. This system is very similar to the Daiwa SV, which, I mean, I guess the courts will fight it out. But we benefit because this baby, once you get it dialed in, now the SV system, you use no braking. This one, you're going to use a little braking. Once you get that combination dialed in, you can chunk this thing. You can ask Nick. I was bombing and ripping casts on this thing, like as hard as you can rip a cast, no thumb, and carrying the lake.
So one of the fun things about George is when he gets one of these new reels in his hand down at ICAST, they're telling him this, that, and the other thing. He's like, let me see this thing, because he has to put it through the ringer, and you do, George.
Oh yeah, I took it apart and put it back together and blasted it, and it was. I'm telling you, it's a legit quality reel. We broke it down for you once before,
Yeah.
but we've been getting inundated. When you look in the Lew's case, everything's black except for this. It's gold.
Yeah.
Or what's a gold reel?
Why'd they do the gold?
Why not?
It was a cool story behind that. Don't you know the story?
No.
One of the guys that works for Lou's been working there for 45 years, is getting ready to retire.
Oh.
And he was involved back in the day when they made some gold Lou's reels, back when gold was hot. And he said, man, I really want to see another gold reel out there. So they in honor of him, they made a gold reel.
I think it's great. Great
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a coppery gold. It kind of grows on you. When I first saw it, I thought, man, what a phenomenal reel. Too bad it's gold.
I know.
But the more I look at it,
Yeah.
and the custom pro spinning reel matches it.
Yeah.
So you can really bling the hell out of the front deck of your boat.
Yeah.
Now that's a custom pro. Now they have a custom, which we're going to really lay into right now. And the custom, is $179.99, and it has a little more of a difficult braking system to explain. In essence, it has what's called the Paramag system, which is very similar to the Custom Pro, but the induction cup is fixed. This is the system that was on the Elite. The Elite and the two top reels, the Elite and the I'm sorry, I can't remember the name, but their two top end reels ran this system. And this is the same cup, but it's fixed. It doesn't move. And the magnetic system is exactly the same. You can look in the side there and you can see. Now, the magnets are different size, but it works very, very similar. You are going to require a little more braking on the cast control than you will here, but I'm here to tell you this baby casts great. That system works well. It's all externally adjusted. There's no internal adjustments at all. Cast control for spool tension, Paramag adjustment here. This is a light reel, okay? It's aluminum, one-piece frame, obviously. Aluminum side plates, obviously. $179.95, not a bad price at all. It's got anodized aluminum gears. So these are not brass gears. You're not going to get that grindy, geary feel quickly. This same set of gears that you've been using their top end reels for years. It's got the pinion we talked about. It's got a carbon drag washer. It locks down. It makes 20 pounds of drag. And it's got, I really like this, some of the simple stuff. The little indicator for the line. You can spin that dial on the inside of your cast control knob, and you can choose the type of line and the pound test.
Yeah, that's pretty cool stuff.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
And then it has what's called the Speed Keeper. Now we're doing this upside down and backwards. Whoops. That pops out. Hook your lure on there. You don't scratch up your frame. Fold it right back down again. Pretty cool.
those reels are what's cool about what I like about them is the compactness of them. Super ultra compact in your hand. You put them on a rod and it just real small in your hand, kind of it just fits really nice. It's just nice, small, comfortable. You can really get your hands up around it and control the reel and have a grip on it. Very easy.
100 or 90 yards of 12.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a smaller spool, but
plenty.
It's a 75% reel. I mean, it does 75% of the stuff you want to do, maybe more, really well.
Yeah.
Is this going to be the reel you put on your big offshore 6 and 8 XD rod? No.
Yeah.
You'll empty it.
Yeah.
But for everything else you do, with the exception of maybe open water frogging, this reel fits the bill because it has that capacity. It comes in a 7.5, which is taking up 28 inches per crank, which is typical of a smaller spool. So I'm going to recommend that if you're worming, jigging, bottom contact bait fishing, or if you're maybe you like a faster reel for your swim jig or your chatterbait, I'm going to recommend you go to the 8:3-to-1 ratio because you're jumping up to a 31 inch per crank. 9 bearings, 9 stainless steel shielded bearings, 1 roller bearing. Nice reel, really nice reel. And then the third bait caster we're going to look at here from Lew's tonight quickly. And this is basically the number one selling reel Lew's has. It's $99.95. It's the Speed Spool. Okay. This is the third generation of this reel. Now, if you look at the spec book on this reel comes in 5.6, 6.8, 7.5, and 8.3. And 5.6 is not something you find in very many reels. And I want you to look at the size of this spool. This reel is 100. The 5.6 is even bigger than this. It's 140 yards of 12. If you're looking for a low gear ratio cranking reel, which there's a lot of you looking for that, you can find them in right hand, but this also comes in a 5.6 left hand. 140 yards of 12. You could put this on a big open water crankbait rod and you can have yourself a nice quality cranking reel for $100. 6.8, 7.5, the 8.3. All those ratios, right hand, left hand. So there's 4 gear ratios, right hand, 4 gear ratios, left hand. We got a whole half of our shelf is dedicated to this reel. We sell a ton of these things. 7 ounces, not bad. 15 pounds of drag, plenty of drag. $99.95. And it's got that super pinion that we discussed earlier. That's why I went into that super. Now it is a brass super pinion. It's not the harder, but it's $100.
Yeah. Good stuff.
When it's time to fix it, you throw it away and buy another one. That's how you fix it.
We've been selling that since day one, and that thing's been.
This is the third generation.
It's been an awesome,
it's a great reel.
Everybody loves it.
So check that out. That's a Gen 3, and you'll see them clearly labeled like that on our website.
Yeah.
One more thing from Lew's, and we're always talking about, some people get on us a little bit. Well, you're always talking about $400 reels and $300 reels. And yeah, we do, but you're exaggerating. Okay. I'm a bit of a stickler for those comments that paint with broad strokes. I just talked about a $99 reel. My sweet spot to really talk about $199.99. So yeah, will I talk about an $800 reel? I absolutely will. Proud as hell to sell them. And there's, as they say in the car business, people, there's an ass for every saddle. And we got a lot of saddles. So stop typing on the keyboard, hate mail to George. Okay.
He loves it.
Here's a $59.95 spinning reel. And if I may say, Mike, pretty damn nice.
I can't believe Lew's is like is putting this stuff out.
Well, this reel's been out, but this is
No,
Gen 2.
I know. I'm saying, every year they keep getting better, and it wasn't that long ago that we wouldn't even sell the damn things.
The spinning reels.
Yeah,
They never were much of a spinning.
yeah, but
That's
they made a very, very
in the
conscientious.
past.
They made a very conscientious effort to put themselves in the spinning reel market, and I
got to tell you,
I was talking to those guys, and they're like, we're making some serious strides on it, and we're dead serious about it. And here it is. This shows it right here.
that's a sexy looking machine right there.
I love the matte finish of it.
That's like
Yeah.
that's
And
like a McLaren.
and it's smooth. It's really
$60.
I know, it's a nice
Okay.
reel for $60.
Now, what you do is you buy this reel, and then when it gets geary on you and you need to work on it, you throw it in the trash and you buy another one. 9 bearings. Now, we are a graphite body and a graphite rotor. You are going to get a little bit of flex. You're going to get a little more wear on the slide. It's $60.
We make up with that with all the bearings, though.
6.2 to 1 gear ratio. And the 200 size, which is this guy, 200, 300, 200, 300. You see that diameter difference on that spool. The 200 size is 32 inches per crank. And this boy right here is 35. 12 pounds of drag, 13 pounds of drag. Listen, I had to mention them to you. I really like that reel. Now, that's $59.95. We also carry all the other spinning reels they make, but wanted to highlight that. Okay. And just to keep my life in balance, I'd like to talk about a $250 spinning reel now. Okay. Now this, we're on a different playing field. This is the new Daiwa Kage LT-B. So the Kage line came out some years ago, and to great fanfare. And then they decided to bring out the Kage MQ. Beautiful, spectacular reel, kind of pricey. So now we're back to the LT, which means we have a side plate that we can take off. This is all Zion HD. This is lighter than aluminum and has less flex than aluminum. Air bail. $249.99 for the 2000. This is the 2500. This is our number one selling size right here. Cork knob. Cork-like material knob.
I was going to say.
This knob was passed over a pile of cork sawdust. There is actually DNA of cork in this knob. Machined handle. Threads right into the body. Whenever you're spinning reel, whenever your handle threads into your drive gear, that's level up. If the handle threads into the drive gear, level up. If you got to tighten this down over here, it'll work for a couple years. Then it's going to get not like this. Aluminum gears. When you go to the aluminum gears, your price jumps up, but your smoothness lasts for so much longer. Years. Stats. 2500 is 11 pounds of drag. Pardon me reading my notes. 6 bearings, but here's the deal. This one here, corrosion resistant. That's good. That's a good thing. The 2500 is 34.3 inches per line per crank. There's a 2000 at 32 inches. And then this bad boy right here, the 3000, which you note is a T handle. So no cork. But the spool diameter gives you 37 inches of line per crank. But here's the cool thing with that bigger drag washer. You double the drag pressure from 11 to 22 pounds. Now you do jump up $20. So that's your Kajay LT.
Great reel.
Very nice. Super light.
I have last year's version.
Super nice. Super nice.
Beautiful.
Super nice. What do you think?
Well,
A lot of reels in the last 2 weeks.
I'm a big fan of that $59 loose reel. Really like it. Really like that reel.
All right. I'm going to tell you right now.
You know what's nice about a $59 reel, Nick? You could put a lot more money in a rod then. You know what we say? You got to feel them to reel them.
I'm going to tell you right now.
It's my 2 cents.
The beatings will continue until morale improves. This is a Jite. A Jite is a small weapon used by the police in Japan. So I went out and got me a Jite. Now, on their lunch breaks, they like to go fishing. So we have the ultimate telescopic fishing rod. You can whoop the ass of a drug dealer at 11 and be on the lake at 12. Now, here's how this baby works and why. I mean, this thing is super freaking light. Okay? This is all carbon. This ain't your grandpa's telescopic fishing rod right here. Okay? As they say in Philly, this John's $199.99. But check out these guides. They free slide. So this guide folds. This is fixed. You snap that up, line it up with your reel seat, and then the rest of these guides, you just slide them down until they get snug and line them up. Till they get snug, so on and so forth. They ain't going nowhere. Now, what I don't want to see you doing when you buy your Jite is snapping it like this to straighten it out. Okay, because it's not made to do that. Super light. And then you take your cover.
I love it.
That is badass right there, okay?
I saw that thing, man, at ICAST, and I was like, holy crap.
The freaking balance, the weight. I mean, it's nice. It's called an Ardito, which is a travel series from Daiwa. Mm-hmm. And when you look on the website, you'll see other versions of there's another telescopic, and then there's a whole series of multi-piece Arditos. Very primo.
Yeah.
The
very, very quality.
These joints here, they're flex. They flex. This ain't no telescope. For 30 years, every telescopic rod that we ever tried to sell broke.
Yeah.
100% failure rate. So we had to stop selling them.
Yeah.
And when Daiwa showed us this at ICAST, we're like, nah.
Just set.
And then they got them out and broke them down for us. And we're like, yes, we'd like to stock all those, please.
Yeah. The idea for me is, that little compartment back in your back of your truck, Nick, that little thing where, like a little tray back there, you just throw that in there, you hang your reel off to the side there, and then no matter what you're doing, where you're at, bust it out.
Bro, you remember that video when Fat Cat was on that guy's pond and he broke out the freaking nunchucks?
Yeah.
Kumite. Well, you got him right here.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
you can
whoop
take care of
whoop somebody's ass and then cast out in the pond and catch a 5-pounder.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah.
So George, that rod that you just showed us, what was the action on that?
So that is a 6'7" medium, and it actually has a taper. It's fast. It really tapers.
It does. It's legit.
It's a 16th to 3/8, and they say 3 to 8 pound line. I'm pretty sure we can fudge that a little bit. That is the rod for you if you're a freshwater or a light saltwater guy. Let's say you're going to fly down to Tampa. You're going down to Ybor. Maybe you're going to hit Cathedral, smoke a couple sticks, maybe have a beer. You might shoot over to Raymond James, catch a game. And then you're like, well, hell, I'm going to run up to Clearwater, jump on a boat, catch some speckled trout. There you go. You got your pocket fisherman with you. You're good to go. Maybe your boss is like, yo, man, I gotta fly you out to Arizona. You got to do some work for me out there at Lake Havasu.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Do your work. You'll be sitting on the bank of Havasu that night with your GT dropping the hammer on them.
Yeah.
So it's a very handy
It is
piece.
super handy, telescopic, and then it protects not only that, but when you put the cover on it, everything's protected. There's not pieces that you can bust.
I'm going to
all
tell
up.
you right now,
It is really cool.
we will sell a truckload of them things for traveling anglers.
Yeah.
Because there's been a revolution on pack rods for the last
2 years.
which we don't even call them pack rods anymore. Now we call them travel rods. There's been a revolution on those. We have a full line from St. Croix, multiple grades. We have a full line from Daiwa, multiple grades, probably 3 grades, probably 8 rods. We have Shimano is in the game in the Zodius, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
We took one.
Yeah.
And we were catching redfish and speckled trout and anything else that wanted to play.
Yeah.
So the old school, forget the old school travel rod, multi-piece.
Yeah. It's nothing.
That ain't like that anymore.
Nothing like it.
You would have a hard time telling me if I put some of these rods together for you that they were multi-piece.
Yeah, you really would.
We actually have to label them here in the store.
Yeah.
So that people can differentiate.
Yeah.
The
airlines aren't friendly to you anymore when you're traveling with those rods. It's super ultra expensive, hundreds of dollars to ship them down.
Unless you fly Southwest.
Yeah.
Bags fly free.
Yeah. But problem with that is, they're throwing stuff around and busting stuff
they'd
up.
be throwing stuff
And
around.
the problem is with those long ones, they get lost a lot. There's a lot of people are always day or two later get their stuff. And this way you throw it right in your backpack. Put your reel in your backpack, couple tackle boxes in your backpack. It's with you the whole time. I don't care if I lose my shorts and underwear and stuff. I want my rod and reel with me. So, but George and I, we traveled around a little bit, and we always hated not having a rod. So we got a couple of them and take them with us wherever we go, because we don't know if we're going to end up fishing or not. We just take them. Doesn't take up any room whatsoever. So cool stuff.
All right, couple more items here for tackle talk, and then we're going to move on to the meat and potatoes of tonight's show, which I think you'll find interesting, boys. Let's see if I can get this out of the package. It's really not looking that good right now at this point. It's getting better. We're getting closer. So we talk about this bait. Now, and what I did was, here, let me frame this for you. I took a little walk around the shop, and I picked out a couple things that either they're not necessarily new. Some of them are kind of new, but they're happening, at least in my world. And since I'm the one that's doing this segment, that's how it works. I think you'll find it exciting. I really do. We talk about this bait a lot, but I don't think you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. This is the riser bait, okay? Now, this thing is ultra successful bait. This is designed as a topwater lure, and that's how I fish it. It's been adapted to the scope world, and that's fine. But I haven't used it that way yet. I fish it, Mike, and I always have from the time we get into spring until we get late into fall, there's a spinning rod on the deck of the boat with this lure tied on it. Usually we use one that's they call it real minnow is the name of the color, because we've had it forever. But they make a bone now, so I might have to add that. But this bait is called a riser bait, as we've said. Look at the little hooks. That's a size 8 treble hook. And I've caught multiple 4-pounders on this bait over the years. You don't lose them. You're on a spinning rod. I like to fish it on braid, straight tied to it. And when all you do is straight reel it, and it comes back at you kind of like a Zara puppy. It's heavy, it sinks. But as soon as you reel it, that metal lip brings it up, and it rolls and wobbles like this coming back to you. So it's like a Zara puppy that you reel in. You don't have to twitch it. Now, it has been adapted to the scoping world because it sinks. And when you reel it up past a fish and kill it, it falls back to them. You might have noticed some of the other brands have kind of adapted this bait into their lineup for that reason. But I like it as a topwater. That's number one baits that I think you should look at. Obviously not in the winter. Number two, this is a new bait to me. I don't have a lot of experience with it, but as we all talk about on this show a lot in the winter, we're big-time blade bait guys. We love the blade bait. Tidal water, largemouth, lakes, smallmouth rivers, lakes. Well, here's an adapted, this is a hybrid. This is a tail spinner. This is like a Little George on steroids. And back in the day, we used to fish the Little George. It was a tail spinner by Manns that you would fish in the same exact manner that you would fish a blade bait. But you have a solid, compact body, one hook, tail spinner on a bearing. You see how it spins. This is a Shimano BT spin. BT means Bantam. It's got a wobble, so you let it fall, and then you yo-yo it up, and it kind of swims its way up with a side-to-side wobble. The blade spinning. Very interesting. Compact, heavy. This is 5/8 of an ounce, that little sucker. Look how small that is. That's smaller. That's the size of a 1/4 ounce blade bait. It's 5/8. So you're going to have tremendous control of this bait. You're going to be getting a blade bait-like, crankbait-like wobble and a tail spin. I'm playing with it. I haven't mastered it yet in that venue. This was made to be cast out and reeled back like a crankbait. It's a multi-species bait. Wanted to highlight it again. We have highlighted it a few times. I want to highlight it again. Now, this is one of the most fun baits that I throw in the spring. And this bait comes in 4 sizes. It comes in a 25, a 30, a 40, and a 50. The 50 is a lunker hunter. This is the 40. This is the most versatile size they make. This is the Spro Rat. This is a primo bait. It's a wake bait.
Awesome
bait,
Awesome.
man. I mean, awesome bait.
Yeah, love that thing.
Anything, largemouth, smallmouth, awesome around the spawn, awesome in the post spawn. This thing is badass.
Yep.
Awesome in the summer.
It's
This thing is badass.
yeah, I throw it a lot. Throw
We
it a lot of the year.
love that morning dawn color. Our friend Jason Shea turned us onto this years ago, and we've just taken it and adapted it out into the whole world.
Yeah.
1 ounce, 4 inches. So you're not fishing it on like a light rig. You're going to fish this on a 7.2 to a 7.6 heavy. And we fish it on 20-pound fluorocarbon, but you can fish it on braid. It's great. Okay. And then last is an oldie but a goodie. I think it's overlooked. You know, I fish a lot of old school stuff because I caught fish on them back in the day and I catch fish on them now. I like to flip with this bait. I like to use this as a trailer on my swim jig. I like to use this as a trailer on my chatterbait. And I love to flip this bait. It's a hollow body. It's got a solid end for rigging. It's a hollow body like a tube. It's called a baby pack-a-crawl. Also comes in a bigger size called a pack-a-crawl. Back in the day, this thing dominated. It still does. The only good thing is nobody uses it.
Well,
I shouldn't say nobody. It's
I fished with some.
It's got some juice again, Mike.
Well, I fished with some high end tour level pros, and it was funny how many times, you know, when they open up their boxes and they pull stuff out, how that bait right there came out a lot.
So you get this on the retrieve.
It flops like nobody's
You
business.
get the offset flop. This is killer on a swim jig. It's killer on a chatterbait when you're yo-yoing a chatterbait in dirty water. I love to flip it.
It's a great flipping bait.
Now, I'm going to share something with you. This is the juice now. I'm telling you, this was told to me by my good friend Bill McDermott many years ago. And he's like secretive, like, you know, I'd be like defaulting on a friendship here. But you know what? It happens. This is a black and blue color. And this, when you're flipping, particularly in the spring, particularly where you have bluegill and perch, you dip those tail tips of that black and blue in orange spike it. Now, orange, you know, dye doesn't really affect black that much. And it doesn't look like much. And then wait till you throw it in the water. It gets this glow to it.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, probably not the first tournament this spring of Brian's tournaments, because I'm going to beat Mike and Nick on a bank. I'm going to be shaky head fishing on a drop because it's in March. But the April and May tournament, this is what's putting them to sleep. You know, once I get up to about 21, 22 pounds on my moving baits, I'm going to flip up some studs on this, and it's freaking over. So I had fun, guys, going through the shop tonight and picking up 4, not necessarily new things to talk about on Tackle Talk, but it was fun. I kind of get bored of just doing new stuff. So, you know, we took a walk down memory lane. I know you and I have caught a bunch of fish on that baby pack-a-crawl.
Oh, yeah.
So check out those lose reels. Now, last week we did Daiwa. They're fantastic also. Check out the lose reels. Check out that Ardito GT if you're hitting the road. Maybe look into some of the old school baits that Mike and I like. And I'm sure cameraman Nick might agree with us on some of those baits. What out of these 4 here, Nick? The baby pack-a-crawl, the Spro Rat. Now this BT, a lot of people don't fish.
Right.
Out
of those 4,
and the riser bait.
the one that I have the most.
What do you got for us?
The most experience with is the baby pack-a-crawl. I mean, like you guys said, there's not much you have to say about it. It's a great bait. It's a forgotten bait, unfortunately, but the people that know.
Yeah.
Do you remember when that bait came out?
I'm not sure what year it was.
Well, I don't remember the year, but I'm telling you, it took over the fishing world.
Oh, absolutely.
So what happened with NetBait is they've been bought by a company called American Bait Works. And we've talked about this before. But they develop bait fuel. And all of their baits are now scented with bait fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Love me some bait fuel.
And guess what? Mike and I have done some side-by-side tests.
Works.
I mean,
Works.
it's kind of weird that
I know,
something that doesn't smell like
doesn't
anything.
smell like anything. It does weird things.
But
I don't know.
George, this year, 2025, that little riser bait is the one I want to work with a little bit on some of the lakes I fish.
Listen, put that on a spinning rod, tie it straight to your braid. It's one of the best late season spawn and highlight the word post spawn. One of the best. And I mean best. Now, the last thing we got for you. Now, this item here is not going to be on the website because they're selling quick. But for all you Megabass guys that, are into like the respect series stuff like this, which we do a bunch of those. This is called the Lucky Bag, which is interesting because it's not a bag at all. But this is the 2025 Lucky Bag. It's actually inside here. This is sealed. Inside here is a metal tackle box. Opens up. There's no tray. It's just one cavity. You can see how big it is. Each one of these boxes contains a yet to be released Vision 110 shallow runner. That's coming, but it's not out yet. So you got one of those. You have a Dog X Koyo slide bait, which is like a small Dog X. You got one of those. You got a Pop X in there, one of those. They're in very rare colorways. There's some abalone colorways. There's some, and everyone's different. And the box is different.
You don't know what you're going to get.
You don't know what you're going to get. And it's $139.99. So you know what you're going to get. You just don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's 4 baits. 4 baits?
3.
The FX, the shallow lip 110, the slide swimmer, the slide walker,
And the popper.
the Pop X. Nothing else?
I don't think so.
Check my sign over there. I don't know if there's 3 or 4 baits.
So George, did you have anybody get one yet and open it?
Oh yeah,
Nice.
yeah. The first couple that were bought, the one guy just ripped the thing right open. He's like, "I want the red box." He got the green box. He's like, "Man, I like the green box." This is a big collector guy. Those 3 baits. Yeah. And then we got the baits out and we were looking at them. The colors were like, I've been selling Megabass since Megabass has been in the U.S. I've never seen anything like it. So it's pretty cool.
Limited.
We got about 5 left.
Yeah. They're very limited. So if you want one, give us a call at the shop here. We'll hold it for you.
Is that something they do every year?
Well,
I don't even think
they do
every year
in Japan.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But
This is the first one here.
I don't know if it's the first one here, but it's the first one that in
That's really
recent
cool.
years.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Yeah.
There's an interesting story behind it. Yeah. So, we're always trying to do something different. We have guests on, right? We have topics, like we'll pick a topic, like we're going to talk about spinnerbait fishing. And that's fun, tearing apart a topic like that. We're going to talk about jig fish, whatever. That's always fun. We're going to keep revisiting that. But we're like, you know what? Let's do something a little different. So Mike and I, we had a lot of office work today, grinding on them computers. Skeeter Steve was out here handling the muscle work. And, we're batting around and we're like, there's a number of things that are a lot of people don't do that, once were great, once were the hottest thing going.
Overlooked
Overlooked is the word we came up with. So what are some overlooked things that, we feel you should be doing? And there are things that sometimes we overlook them too.
Yeah.
And Mike and I, before Nick came in and stole my tournament partner from us back in the day in the spring, we would use some of these techniques. And the first one is the floating worm. Right?
Awesome.
And to this day, we are in the spring, we are constantly asked weekly. Somebody will say, "Where are your floating worms?" And they want floating worms. And, we have to kind of navigate that statement. That's a simple statement. Well, what worms float? Well, like Elastec floats. But we know the guy wants a floating worm, but we know that he doesn't want a worm that floats.
Yeah.
He thinks he wants a worm that floats because somebody
Yeah.
decided to call this a floating worm.
Dan Joe Humphreys.
Yeah, well, he made it famous.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people do not fish a floating worm. And so I think I don't know how we got started talking about floating worms, but it happened.
Oh, yeah.
So I think the way the conversation went down was, we were talking about fishing with spinning rods and, specialized techniques for spinning rods, stuff you pretty much do on. Now, floating worm, a lot of old school guys fishing on a casting rod. So there's not a right or a wrong way to fish it. I like to fish it on a spinning rod. Okay. And I like to fish it on a somewhat of a ballsy spinning rod, like the heaviest spinning rod, like a medium heavy.
Bust out that medium heavy.
7.1 to 7.3. A lot of companies today call it a power spinning rod. I'm going to grab a spool of line here, and we're going to talk some floating worm tactics. We're going to rig up a floating worm, and we're going to show you that it doesn't float. Actually, we're going to make it sink. So,
floating worm is a technique. It's not a floating worm.
Correct.
It's a technique. It's a weightless style technique.
So what we like to do is, you got your line coming off your rod, right? So there's your line coming off your rod. And we like to take a barrel swivel. Now, I like what's called a number 7 barrel swivel. A lot of times Mike likes to fish what's called a number 5 barrel swivel. Okay. This is exactly the same rig we will use to make a fluke sink faster. And we're just going to tie that swivel on real quick. Like if you ever watched any of our fluke shows and we joke around and call it a deep diving fluke, what we're referring to is using a swivel to make the fluke sink. Step back. Now, the reason I tie that swivel on first is I want to tie Palomar knots. So now I'm going to take this, right? This is exactly like you're making a weighted fluke rig or a Carolina rig. I'm going to take this. I'm going to cut this off. This is not my leader. There's my leader. Now I'm going to tie this onto my rod again. It's just easier to tie a Palomar knot when there's nothing on the other end.
Is there a preferred length of leader?
I like it about 18 inches. Okay. It's kind of exactly like fishing a fluke. So, but look, if you're tying a Palomar knot, look how easy that leader pulls through there, as if you have something tied on. All right. So there you go. And last but not least, we're going to tie the hook on. Now, hook style. There is not a correct single hook style. Now, I have my little hook bag here. Okay, so the possible hook styles. And to each their own on this. I and Mike, we fish a lot of EWG. Okay, so extra wide gap.
Hands out of the way. There you
go. Okay. A lot of people will fish what's called a J hook. Now, I call it a J hook, but this is a round bend. You see how that hook right here, where my thumb is, makes a perfect U. This part here is parallel to the shaft. That's a round bend. And a lot of people will fish that J hook on the worm, right? Perfect. And you could also fish, and I've done it, a straight hook. Like a light wire flipping hook, like a straight shank hook, lighter wire, a little bit smaller than this, a little bit lighter wire than this, but that style of hook. Doesn't matter. Now, the worm, in the spring of the year, okay, I like to fish brightly colored Zoom trick worms or whatever your favorite brand is. My number one color, merthiolate. Number two color, bubblegum. Number three color, white. And we've also had some good days on like green pumpkin. You can also beef it up a little bit. For example, there's a trick worm. Here's a net bait Magnum T-Mac, which is their version of the trick worm, but in the Magnum. Bulkier, right? You got to experiment with the worm. I mean, like I said, we've caught them really good on a green pumpkin, but generally speaking, in the spring, when this bait really excels, it's on a bright color. Now, I will say this. If you're a tidal water fisherman, or if you fish the upper end of reservoirs that have, in the summer, in the dog days of summer. So let me back up. Like tidal water, incoming tide. The beginning of the incoming tide is exceptional. But it comes to a point where that comes in too much and it becomes, the bite dies. Now, one of the things that we like to do is we like to go to a high bank. Okay? That bank is holding that tide back from flooding. So picture like a swampy area, picture like a big giant pad field, picture, a cypress stumpy type area where that water can go back and back and back. You can't get at the fish. But a high bank holds that water. And those fish are right there. And the cover becomes shade, right? So this rig is absolutely exceptional for that, particularly around the spawn, but also in the dog days of summer. Also, if you're fishing like a lot of your reservoirs in the dog days of summer, you get into that August period, that July period, late July, August, and you go up in the creek, up in the river, the top. Water's usually a little dirtier. Again, you want a shade, you want a bank for a backdrop, and you want a shade. I've done really well with this technique in like industrial zones on tidal waters where there's barges tied up and there's bulkheads and the barges are providing shade and you're on that terrible part of the tide. And anything you catch is a bonus. Well, when you take this right here, and I like the EWG, so I'm going to rig it up like that. But remember, we did talk about multiple hook styles. You take this bad boy right here, and now we're going to talk about the sequence that we like to fish it. So what I do, you know what? I just like an EWG hook. To each your own.
Great hookups. I don't know.
Stretch that front. You know, I just like that. I like that. I get this hook. I get the straight hook. I like them all, but I really like that. I have a lot of confidence in that. I'm hung up on that, but there's the rig. Okay. Now, the reason I like to fish this on a spinning rod is I'm going to skip this bait back into those shade lines. I'm going to skip this bait up underneath the overhangs. I'm going to skip this bait back behind a barge up against a bulkhead. A lot of times during the spawning season, I'm not, it's not that critical. The fish are spawning on sides, but you might get them on a laydown. You might get them on a boat dock. And then this bait's going to fall. It's going to sink. You could put a fluke on here and be talking about the exact same thing. Because I fish this like a fluke, but a little slower.
Yeah, it's a lot slower.
Mike and I like to let this bait fall until it's out of sight, or even on the bottom in shallow water. And then we just pop it 2 or 3 times till we see it come up.
Almost like it coils up like a snake almost. When you pop it, it straightens out. And then when you stop it, it kind of coils up and does a kind of a neat little thing to it.
It kind of wanders.
And then it straightens back out and then it wanders down on it. Yeah.
And then you just kind of pop it like this or pop it at an upward side angle, and you want to see it come back up and then do it again. Usually if there's a fish there,
don't take much.
You ain't doing no popping or twitching. This thing starts to sink.
Yeah. And
either you'll see a mouth like this or a boil. So one, it's fun to fish.
Yeah.
Back when we cut our teeth on this on spinning rod, we didn't have good braid. So we were fishing like 12-pound mono on a spinning rod, which is about as much fun as
sucked
trying to, mend a barbed wire fence with a herd of cows looking at you. Now we use braid with a leader. And it's like, oh, hell yeah.
You want to know something funny, Nick?
What's
the best day I ever I had 2 really great days that I can remember on it, like great quality days. But one of them was on smallmouth.
Really?
Yeah, Raystown Lake.
No way.
Smoked them pre-spawn. Yep.
That's awesome.
Pre-spawn, windy points, smoked them. And the only reason I was using it was I had it rigged up from the weekend before when George and I were down to Bay.
Fishing tournament.
And we smoked them down there.
Before you stole my partner from me.
And we smoked them down there. And I had this thing tied on. And I went up there and the wind was blowing great on these points. Going back into spawning coves, and I always start out. I don't know what the spawn's going on, so I start out in the windy point, throw that thing in there, and I'm kind of looking back in there.
That's awesome.
It's bad to the bone.
Yeah,
it's great bait. I'll tell you,
I caught a lot of fish that day on those worms.
I think that 4th tournament of Brian's Trail this year is in June. I'll show you what this does on that one. I'm not too keen about it on the first 2, but the 3rd and the 4th. I'll show you how this works.
So I got to ask you a question. A lot of times when we're talking about any baits on Tackle Shop Live, we're talking about colors and, we're sticking with, the basics. But with this bait here, those 3 colors you picked out are pretty, flary. What's the deal?
I don't know what the deal is, but here's another guy right here says Sherbet.
Sherbet was we caught him on Sherbet.
Sherbet was like like all those twisted colors were.
Remember the lime green?
Lime green, all those kind of colors. It's a visual thing. It's like throwing a chartreuse back jerkbait.
It's like throwing a bubblegum fluke for a smallmouth.
Yeah. It's just a visual.
You see Zona fishing that siren all the time in the crystal clear Great Lakes.
But at the same time, don't forget white and don't forget green pumpkin, but it's typically the brighter colors. It's just a reaction. All it is a reaction bait,
Yeah. We always called them trigger colors.
Yeah. It triggers something.
It triggers that response. It's like this exact same setup, as we've said, is you could do what we like to call a deep dive and fluke, which all that means is we're in wind, we're in deeper water, 5+ feet, and we want the fluke to sink quicker.
Mm.
That's exactly what you're doing here. The bites a lot of times are it's all about that sink, right? That's why sometimes he'll put that 5 barrel swivel on, which is considerably bigger. I don't think I have one in my little kit here, but
It's bigger.
it's considerably bigger and it sinks considerably faster. We've also done them with no barrel swivel and a nail. And when I say a nail, back in the day, we used a nail.
Finishing nails.
Finishing nails. We still do use finishing nails.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works.
And that nail has to be located in here, in this belly part of the hook here, in between the belly and the hook. And that's to give it the balance to let it fall level.
I thought about you guys last year. I went down to Florida, late February. I get to Orange Lake and there's 2 guys at the dock and they're putting their boat in and they're telling me about all these big fish that are in that lake. And I'm like, this is great. They're like, hey, do you have any floating worms?
There you go.
And I'm like, what don't I have is floating worms.
Yeah.
Well, you thought they had to float.
Yeah.
Now you know that
And he's
they
like,
don't float.
he's like, oh man, you need to have them.
Did he give you any?
Oh, he gave me a pack because that's all they used
Yeah.
the whole 3 days they were there.
Wow.
And I thought about you guys because we've talked about this stuff before.
Well, we have some good questions here. So we have a question about the rod action. So as we stated, this is where you get your medium heavy out. Okay. And whether it's fast action or extra fast action, don't get hung up on that.
Yeah. Just a medium heavy power.
Medium heavy. Now we're braid to leader guys now, we've evolved. And we like a 12-pound fluorocarbon leader on our braid. Exactly the same setup we would be drop shotting with in cover. Exactly the same setup we Nico rig with. If you think about this, take the swivel off, wacky rig the bait and put a nail in the head, you're Nico rigging. So it's that really versatile. A lot of companies call them power spinning rods. 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, medium heavy, fast, extra fast. It doesn't matter. Whatever one you like. Braid to a leader, 12-pound fluorocarbon. Trust me. Yeah, and I know all you hardcore tournament guys are like, that line's too light. I'm going to break them off. I'm telling you from coming around, that's how I was. I bought like bulk spools of 20 for everything. No. 12-pound fluorocarbon on a spinning rod, and you can land them in the most unforgiving, gnarliest. When was the last time you broke off a fish on a spinning rod with that setup?
Well,
Like you can't even remember.
I can't even remember. It would have
Well,
to be.
when was the last time you hooked a fish on that setup? Let's start with that.
I mean, the only time I would say I
Hesitation.
broke off it was barnacles.
Yeah.
And that's the only time.
And that happens with 30.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what with that, but no, you don't break off
Real
it.
quick for the listeners and viewers, when you say braid to fluoro, you're not taking your braid directly to the barrel swivel. You're putting a fluoro leader
Yes.
on
Yeah.
that's on the barrel
Yes.
swivel and on the other side as well.
Yeah, the leaders are
Okay.
10 to 12 feet long.
Just for convenience.
Yeah, that's what we roll with.
Just for
usually 10 to
convenience.
12 feet long. And there's another question here about whether or not you can use a ribbon tail. It's not a ribbon tail thing.
No, it's not.
It's a straight tail worm. It's a specific technique with a specific worm style. And I'm telling you, when you twitch, if you don't get bit on that first initial fall and you twitch it, it coils up weird. It kind of loads up and springs out. And that's another part of that whole thing that it does, is that it's a weird action. It doesn't glide like a fluke does. A fluke really glides. This thing just goes straight and coils. It coils and then straightens right out. It's very, very weird. And another thing I don't think George is really touching on is how good it is in post spawn. That June,
Fantastic.
the June area when it starts getting hot and the fish are feeding up. You guys at Fish Docks, fantastic and docks.
I actually have a note on my iPhone to show you how good it works on post spawn.
Oh.
At last tournament.
Huh?
The last tournament.
Last tournament?
The last tournament that you guys that were all fishing together.
Yeah.
You and Nick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you how good it
Oh,
works.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
You keep up with that. Doug's asking if you can throw this on a bait caster. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The only problem with it, Doug, is skipping it. That's why I throw it on a spinning rod. I can skip a jig, a buzz bait, a chatterbait,
The guy,
a tube, a Senko.
Yeah.
But this thing here
the guy who made it
with
famous.
that damn
Yeah.
barrel swivel on it,
Yeah.
he don't skip so nice.
The guy who really made it famous, Danny Joe Humphreys, fishes in North Carolina, and those lakes, and that was what he did a lot with it, and won all kinds of tournaments on it. Skipped it up underneath trees, and
He won the Bass National Championship on it, and rode that sucker to
yeah,
the ends of the earth.
and his deal, but who knows how many local tournaments he did well with it on, because he was the floating worm master, and he would fish
No doubt.
shade lines and skip it up underneath trees and fish laydowns with it, and we got a chance to talk to him a lot.
Yeah, we knew him for years.
Yeah, we knew him a lot, and it's a funny story. 1989 is when we were introduced to the floating worm, and Danny Joe just won his tournament, and we didn't really know who he was. And George ordered floating worms from what was the name of that company? You remember the name of that company?
Yeah,
It was a famous plastics company back in the day, and we ordered a box. This was our first year in business, and we ordered a box was this big and this tall. It weighed about 75 pounds. Now for us, that was a lot of worms back in those days, man. That was like, holy crap, George, how many worms did you order here? And we bought it. They came in the door. We were like, man, I'm so excited. We ripped them out of the pack. We went over. We used to have a big 40-gallon tank in our shop with little fishing rods, so you can see how the baits would go, and that was our big thing back when we opened, was having this little thing so you can see how your baits worked. And George picks one up, man. He rips out of the pack. This is what it's all about, Mike. He throws it in there, sinks right to the bottom of the tank. He says,
float.
God dang, freaking guy got me good on this one. He packed everything all up, called the guy up. These freaking worms don't float. He guy's like, whoa, calm down here, man. And then he had to explain it to us. George was like, I'm packing these things up and sending them back. And then we
learned.
Right after that, we got a hold of Danny Joe Humphreys, and he was coming out with his floating worm, and George called him up and had a 2-hour conversation with him in the back, and George came out and said, well, them worms that we sent back were good, but that's not what they're supposed to do. And he explained the technique, and
you're not going to believe this.
Explained everything to us.
I remember the name of the company.
What was it?
Haul River.
Haul River. Exactly. That is exactly it.
Pretty
Way
good,
back
George.
machine, man.
Yeah, that's 1989. That's no shit. We were in our first shop. It was a 700 square foot store. And
Haul River.
And George, Haul River is exactly what it was.
You loaded up.
And it was the funniest damn thing in the whole world, because that's how ignorant we were. But that's how 90% of the people come in here and ask for floating worms. That's what they're expecting.
You got to learn it.
You got to learn the technique. You got to learn what it's about. It's a technique, not a floating worm. It's a technique, and that's it right here. And that's one of those things
It's killer.
we wanted to bring to your attention.
Yeah.
Now we're getting long-winded, but we got some more.
What we do, we're gonna
got some
move right
more.
along here. We're gonna move right along here, and remember, feel free to reach out if you want to go into depth on any of these topics forever.
Yeah.
Next up is another worm, guys, that I think is way overlooked, and it's a worm. You Texas rig it. It's a swimming worm. So, we learned this many, many years ago with now picture that worm without that cut in it. That's called an ultra vibe speed worm. Now picture that whole tail just round like a lollipop, a flapper. Okay. Now this worm, if you don't have any experience with it, you figure you just Texas rig, you flip it out, you worm it, or you cast it out and you worm it, and that works. But what we're doing with this bad boy is swimming it. So the way I like to rig it, guys, is I like to rig it with my wide gap hook, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I like a little bullet weight on there.
Yep.
Like I like a 1/4 ounce. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I like a 1/4 ounce. And if you've never fished this, then I'm going to liken it to something you probably have fished due to the popularity, and that's a little boot foot swim bait on a jig head. That's pretty much how you fish this. You cast it out, and you reel it in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's cool about this is it's Texas rig, so it's coming through the grass, the pads. And what's cool about it with that little weight on it, when you get into a hole, you can kill it and let it fall down in there. And you have to experiment with it.
Yeah.
Because the fish.
Some days they want it killed like that. Other days it's just reeling it straight in. Yeah.
Now, this is how this has evolved.
The reason he's saying lollipop is because back in the day, we had to cut the V in it. Yeah.
So this has evolved into the Magnum version. You know, which one's better?
I think later in the year, you go to the bigger ones.
Yeah.
You know, when in that June-ish,
I mean,
May-ish kind of thing, you know.
It kind of depends where you're at. It kind of depends on the forage.
The forage.
It kind of depends on the weather. It kind of depends on, is it raining? A lot of things. You just have to kind of experiment with it. But to echo what Mike said, we do seem to go to the bigger one as that grass becomes more mature, more thick. Yeah. Puts out more vibration. It has more oomph to it. And, of course, there's a bunch of brands out there. I mean, great worms. Big Bite Baits has both sizes. Of course, Zoom. Of course, Gary Yamamoto. Of course, Z-Man. Of course, name your favorite plastic.
So last year, I was fishing with Greg down at the bay. And I'm telling you, nothing was working. It didn't matter what you did. He's on the phone. I'm like, all right, I'm going to throw one of these worms. I'm just reeling it like you're saying, and 4-pounder. Woof. And
you fished that a lot last year, I noticed.
Yeah, it does work well.
Yeah.
It's a more subtle action, and I think it coaxes fish that don't really want to be aggressive. You know, everybody's throwing chatterbait. Everybody's
tail's kind of flopping.
Yeah. And it just looks like I got to have that.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, I like to fish it on a rod with a little bit of thump to it. You know, I fish it on a heavy.
Okay.
A 7.2 heavy with fluorocarbon. And, you know, people argue, you know, you can fish it on, absolutely you can fish it on braid. I like to fish it on fluoro. I fish it on a 7.2 heavy. If it's not too thick, I use a 7.2 medium heavy, which has a lot more juice to it than you might think. And just swim it.
Yeah, I fished with a guy one time, and he did really well with it on a mini split shot rig, in the grass, which was weird. And I fished with him twice. I fished with him once in a tournament down on the tidal water and on the flats, and then I fished with him and again on the tidal water on the Potomac, and he's through it both times. He had a lot of confidence in that rig. And each time he caught fish on it. You know, he caught fish.
But guys, I think most people overlook it.
Oh,
absolutely.
Nobody throws it really. I mean,
I wouldn't say nobody, but I think a lot of people overlook it.
Yeah, I mean, it really is that way.
The only area that I know that they use it a lot is Florida.
Florida, it rules.
It's the deal.
It's dominant in Florida.
Right. I guess where we're at, not a lot of people throw it.
Right.
Yeah.
That 3rd and 4th tournament this spring with Brian, I'll show you how it works.
Yeah.
Now, guys, moving along. This next one is something that, you know, we don't talk about, but we're going to. because Mike and I like to share the wealth. And actually, Mike figured this out on the Three Rivers using a Ultra Vibe Speed Crawl as a toad. Well, I know what you're thinking, Don Roeder, TP, Doug, Robert Bretz. I've been throwing a toad forever. I'm sure you have. But have you been targeting smallmouth with it? Because I'm here to tell you, in the summer months, this is a smallmouth whacking machine. Rig gets up on a wide gap. I like to fish it on a super line hook, 4/0 on braid on my frog rod. The smaller ones, like Mike was fishing, which was an Ultra Vibe Speed Crawl, which we will cut back to. We tend to throw that on a spinning rod with a thinner hook. You can throw it on a casting rod.
I threw it on a casting
The
rod.
last time
It's miserable.
The last time we fished, me, you, and Skeeter Steve,
Yeah.
I was throwing on a
It's
casting rod.
miserable.
And you had to really be on your game
Yeah,
casting
you
it
really got to know
because
how
the
to
wind
do
was
it.
blowing.
And the reason I was throwing on a bait caster was because it was heavy grass.
This largemouth fishing all day long. Been doing it since they invented this bad boy.
Yep.
But smallmouth, and I'm talking river smallmouth, eat this freaking thing up. You ever throw a buzz bait for a smallmouth? This is like throwing a soft plastic buzz bait. It's not really totally adapted, but man, is it ever killer. And of course, obviously, largemouth fishing. I mean, that goes without saying. Also, interesting sidebar, if I could ask about the versatility of this bait. It has nothing to do with what we were talking about. One thing. This is one of the best swim jig trailers I've ever thrown around big fish.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Bill Lowen.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Bill Lowen shared that with us.
No, that was he was the guy we sponsored, the very first guy we sponsored.
No.
Huh?
No.
No?
That
Really?
was a Bill Lowen deal.
Really?
Yep. Actually, it was
it was gray and white on the Potomac.
Actually, it
on
was
a swim jig.
It was a sales rep that was tight with the D&L swim jig guys who Bill Lowen was fishing back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the ones that shared it with us. But
Ah.
Bill Lowen's like, don't tell anybody about that. That has nothing to do with buzzing that thing for smallmouth, but it was just, I couldn't resist to share that as well.
Yeah.
Got time for more?
I got one.
Oh, snap.
Um,
All right. Share it up.
well, and you and I don't even do this enough. And it's
Now that you defected from our team, I have to be very careful what I show you.
No, it's a killer freaking technique, and you and I, we mess with it, but we don't give it its full girth. You know what it's really all about, and that is the swing head.
Oh, okay.
And the
I
bait,
didn't see that coming from
well,
you.
no, and the bait that you were going to talk about is here to put on that thing, and
Oh,
yeah, and the thing about that is, George, is that we're big Carolina riggers. You know, me and you and I fish Carolina rig, you know, probably more than anybody around this area. And it's a freaking deadly technique. Carolina rigging is a deadly technique, but there's more people doing that than fishing the swivel head. And the swivel heads,
swing head.
swing heads, they fish like a Carolina rig. It's basically the a same drag and same everything as a Carolina rig, and absolutely freaking deadly. And we just don't. George and I don't do enough of it. I can tell you that. It's a forgotten thing. It came out with
You like to put the brush hog on it.
absolutely. And the guy who came out with it is Tommy Biffle, and he had the biffle bug, and it kind of went like this. It went zoop zoop right back down. You know, it was like there was a bunch of people got on it, and then a bunch of people got off of it.
Yeah, but we're not fishing that in a drag.
I mean, you fish it the way you want, but it's a to me.
Share with the people how you like to fish at.
I mean,
because I've seen you work this bait.
Yeah.
And you weren't like traditionally like dragging.
No, you throw it out and you just reel it back.
That's why you're always fishing 3/4 ounce.
Yeah, you heavy jig head, you throw it out, and it's just a crawl. You just crawl. You're just reeling it. It's just a straight reel. It's honest to God. It's
almost like your crankbait fishing.
It's the simplest, stupidest
slow
way
roll
of fishing, and it's exactly the way that Biffle designed it to be fished. Is the way that you should fish it. Now you could drag it if you want, like this, and reel up your slack and drag it. But honestly, point the rod straight at it and just nice, slow, steady. You feel it working along. You feel it just swims and works. And
old Mikey boy, he likes to put his. Now he's a game hog, man.
Yeah, I'm a game hog guy, but I'm a brush hog guy too. I like a brush hog, but the hog style baits, you put that son of a gun on there, man. And I'm going to spend a lot of time with that this year, Nick.
Well, let me say this, guys. This bait is overlooked.
Oh, yeah.
This bait is overlooked. Now, I spend way too much of my time flipping this bait. And I have the baby, I have the mid-size, and I have the full size.
There's a lot of money went on those every year.
I literally have one of these rigged up on the deck of the boat from March on.
So, George, you talk about flipping. When do you like, and Mike, same thing, when do you like to flip something like that compared to the pack of crawl? Totally different style.
I like to fish this bait when I'm fishing early. I like to fish this bait when I'm fishing post spawn. Early, I like it because it's got a little bulk to it. It imitates a bait fish like a bluegill or a perch really well. I can have that thing rigged up on. What I usually do is I Texas rig it on like a 1/4, and then I Texas rig it on like a 3/8, and I'll have the two laying on the front deck of the boat. And I'll give you a great example. Last year, when I was pre-fishing for one of the tournaments, when you two guys defected and teamed up, and I'm like, okay, I got to go out there and show these young boys how it's done. I spent a full day and I fished. It was nasty, gnarly, and I was fishing, a lot of different environments, and I had the 2 different weights rigged up. And, I was power fishing most of the time. But if I wanted to know who was home, I took a couple minutes with one of those hogs, brush hogs. That particular day, the mid hog, whether I was on rock, wood, at one point pad stems, and at another, I ended the day on wood on an incoming tide. Up a few miles from where I started. That mid-size, which, we used to have this and this. I think this mid-size is like the frickin' bomb. Now, post-spawn, I really like to fish this towards the tail end of the spawn and post-spawn on grass. Fish that are spawning or just finishing up spawning on grass. It's a very, very, very effective bait. So, Mike likes to drag it. And on the biffle, I like to flip it. It's also a dynamite Carolina rig bait. So that's my take on the brush hog. And the brush hog I like the way Mike did that because it segued into the brush hog. That brush hog's one of our, you're not fishing this enough kind of things. You know what I mean?
I think catches them.
Yeah.
It does.
It's one of them baits. It's one of them baits that you could flip it, you can pitch it, you can drag it, you can, whatever. And it's very, very versatile, super versatile bait. It's a super versatile bait. And I
It also comes in one of the colors that I think is overlooked. I think this is one of the most overlooked colors in bass fishing. Whether it's a worm, a creature. I really like it in a brush hog and a worm. I think this is the most overlooked color in bass fishing, and it's been around for a long time. It's called Blue Fleck. You know, it's a blend of old school purple with blue metal flake, a little bit of plum in there. This is one of the most versatile colors you'll ever throw. I mean, it is money. In a finesse worm, in a shaky head worm, in a big summertime ribbon tail worm, 7-inch ribbon tail to a 12-inch ribbon tail, this thing is money.
Yeah.
And I had that on the list, fellas. Not a technique, not a rig, not nothing, a color, Blue Fleck.
Is there a certain time you like that color better?
I love it in post spawn. I pretty much have a 5/8 ounce Texas rig with a 5/0 hook tied up with a 10 to 12-inch worm from early June on.
The brush hog is one of those baits, Nick, where you need a couple colors. You know, you need the green pumpkins and the watermelons, whether it's green pumpkin or watermelon or watermelon red.
Watermelon red.
Watermelon red, you know. And then, you know, then you need something dark, you know, a June bug, a black and blue style or something like that, like blackberry or something like that. Or you go to, you know, the Blue Fleck, which is really good.
Another color that's similar to Blue Fleck that I find to be very good, particularly on tidal water, Candy Bug.
Yeah, that's your darker colors, you know, Candy Bug, June Bug. There's variations to them, and we have customers that, you know, gotta have one or the other. You know, somebody has to have June Bug, somebody has to have June Bug with red flakes, somebody has to have Candy Bug, somebody has to have blackberry. You know what I mean?
That's a confidence thing,
and that's a confidence thing.
That's so important.
Yeah, and it is so important, you know, and that's why our brush hog selection is so wide. It's, you know, it's 3 sizes, but it's 4 because we carry a little tiny sucker. Little tiny sucker right here, like this right here. You want to talk about a smallmouth creature killing son of a gun? That little tiny, freaking
Easy
awesome
fella.
Yeah. So
you digress.
What's funny is, you know, you had a couple of Zoom baits up here today, and for me, for what I see and what I hear, I believe that Zoom is one of the most underrated companies out there.
that is an underrated company.
Absolutely.
I mean, we sell an absolute truckload of it. But you know, when you look at, you know, what people are always talking about, like the hot cutting edge, this and that, it's Berkeley, it's Strike King, it's you know, different things from different you know, the new one's Crush City from Rapala and Missile Baits. Zoom just
Guys,
Zoom is like an absolute monster.
if I may interject.
It's a monster.
Who do you think the biggest #1 plastics company is in the fishing industry?
I want to say Zoom.
You better say Zoom, because that's who it is.
Yeah.
Their stuff works.
Who is the #1 knockoff company?
Well, you know,
Knockoff, you know, knocking off somebody.
like, yeah, the Death Star,
Yeah.
Pure Fishing.
No. Who gets knocked off the most?
Oh, Zoom.
Yeah, for sure. They invent all these things and then people knock it off. They're the #1 knocked off
Who
company ever.
is the #1 company and the #2 company to not knock stuff off?
Zoom.
And
Who else would it be?
Reaction.
Reaction Innovation.
I
That's
thought
true.
that's what you're
Exactly. Reaction
They don't
Innovation.
knock those guys. Now they will retaliate a little bit.
Yeah.
Like Zoom. You'll see Zoom knock off some stuff the last couple of years,
Yeah.
but that's just Zoom saying, you know what?
we can
You
do
got
this.
yours now. I'm going to get mine.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, George, you say Zoom's #1,
They are #1.
but with what you hear on the streets, and all
Right.
that, you would never know that.
No, you would never know it.
But their stuff just, I don't care whose boat you go on.
It's there.
They have it in their
Yeah.
boat because it works.
Bro, it's like Bitcoin. You don't really hear a lot about Bitcoin, but you hear about all the fancy, meme coins and shit that's going on.
Right.
But Bitcoin's the big boy, right?
Yeah, it's what it
It's
is.
like IBM when you're buying stocks. You got to have your blue chips. Zoom is a blue chip.
The centipede, for God's sakes. You know what I mean? The brush hog,
Oh, I love me some centipedes now.
the fluke.
You know what?
They invented it.
I got news for you.
Great bait.
Oh, son.
The centipede should have made the list
They should have.
because
Should have.
you can Texas rig that centipede and do some damage. I fished a tournament on the Potomac River that with 8 million boats in it. And I caught my fish at a desperation on the inside edge of a very thick grass bed with an army of boats around me. At the end of the day, as I'm running back up the river, hat in hand, another plan failed, torpedoed, sinking. And I had a couple hours to kill, and I'm like, I got to get something. And I went on the inside edge of this grass line. There's boats everywhere. It took me a while to weave through them. I got a spinning rod out. Now, here you go. 8-pound test fluorocarbon. 1/8 ounce weight, bullet weight on a Texas rig. Zoom centipede. I put 17.5 pounds in the boat in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's what it does.
8-pound test.
Nice.
That's what that thing does.
Little bitty hook and a little bitty worm. And because it's so unassuming,
It is.
I see fuzzy dice on here. Well,
Yeah.
the Zoom centipede was the fuzzy dice of the day.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that was the deal.
I've had it save guide trips. I've had it save tournaments. You can wacky rig it. You can Texas rig it. It should have made the list. And you know what? It's not being fished like it used to be.
Yeah.
What's your second best ever Carolina rig bait?
Yeah.
Because I know what your first best is.
Yeah. I mean, honestly,
What's your first best?
my first best
Yeah.
Carolina rig is a brush hog.
Okay, mine's a Zoom Lizard. What's your second best?
Not anymore. It was a Zoom Lizard for a long time.
No, mine's a Zoom Lizard.
Not anymore for me. Not anymore. For
My,
me.
my favorite Carolina rig bait's a Zoom bait too, but it's the speed crawl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So we got lizards, speed crawls, brush hogs, and centipedes, all made by Zoom.
That's right.
I won a tournament one time, Carolina rigging a Zoom finesse worm. No wonder they're the biggest company around because everybody fishes them. Yeah, buddy.
Good
All right.
stuff.
Well, listen, we ran long tonight, and
I know, but that was fun.
that was a lot of fun tonight. We had a great show. Appreciate all you guys hanging in there, and the questions and the comments on the chat are phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. You guys are doing some great stuff on there. I'm glad that there's some a second wave, second part of the show in the chat. Very, very cool for you guys doing that. Thank you so much.
You know what I'm hoping?
Hmm.
I'm going to save this list in my book,
Yeah.
and I'm going to cross everything off here. Let me get my pen out here. Did that. Did that. Did that.
Did that.
Did that. I'm going to circle. Oh, did that. I'm going to circle these last two.
Yeah.
See them? Circled?
Yeah.
Got that? Next week, I would love, and I hope it works out, to do those next two.
The confab on some of that.
Because it's two more things that you're not doing
Yeah.
that you should, right there.
Yeah.
And you're not doing that. And you say, check mark, you're not doing those two things.
Yeah.
I got him up here. Didn't get a chance to talk to him about him tonight because the show's too short. It's only 2 hours. And next week, I would love to be able to do that.
Hey, Doug, single hook or double for the toad? I'm a single hook guy. I just I hate rigging those double hooks up. That's just personal. That's personal. George can ring the doubles up pretty good, but I think you gotten away from them a little bit.
Well, I'm single hook on the smallies and I'm double hook on them big greens.
Yeah, he likes the double hook.
I'll show you what that double hook does.
I
with you.
can't stand that double hook. I can't stand rigging it up. I do all my damage on a spring hook 5.0. And that's what works for me. So anyway, thank you guys so much for the show. We appreciate it. And we will see you on the next Tackle Shop Live.
Sunny day, right there you took my breath away. Young and pretty, was it just a dream? The next day you called me up, you told me I'm your little buttercup. You came over and you fell into my arms. Well, I know what I feel. Please tell me your love is real. You make me smile when I think of you.